And we are back for Rooted in Sports Tuesday. All right, man. This
Yeah,
October already, man. This fucking year is going by fast, dude.
it is, man. It truly is, bro. October, what's today? October 4th. The year is
October.
moving. We
Whew.
are we're I guess we are about a quarter of the way through the NFL season already.
Mhm.
The NBA training camps have started. Preseason games have been played and are being played even as we speak. And yeah, man, it's a lot going on, man. This is a great time, man. Even for you baseball fans, the baseball season's coming down the stretch.
Mhm.
Uh, just a couple minutes ago, Aaron Judge just broke the American League home run record. So congratulations to
Oh,
Aaron Judge from New York
okay.
Yankees. Home run number 62 just a few minutes ago.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it's a lot going on, man. It's a lot going on.
And it's funny because it felt like it was, going to be worlds away or a decade away. But I mean, hell, we right around the corner. The World Cup is about to be here.
It
It's
is,
gonna
man.
start. It's
Time
starting a few weeks. It's gonna be
it
starting
is.
weeks, man. So that'll be exciting. That'll be some more stuff that we can definitely talk about. But we're gonna have an exciting episode for you guys today. Definitely gonna cover some week four, do our week four recap, and give some of our in depth takes, and we'll give our week five predictions. And yeah, and then like I said, just like Swan mentioned, we got to talk just a little bit of NBA because the preseason is here, and yeah, the actual regular season will be starting in what is that? A week, 2 weeks,
Two actually, I believe exactly 2 weeks from today.
2 weeks
Yeah,
from
the
today.
18th. Yeah, exactly 2 weeks from today.
Right. So yeah, so everything is just hitting us all at once. We want to give you guys some good content, so we'll go ahead and we'll take it step by step and give you a little bit of everything. But let's jump into this intro so we can go ahead and get this thing moving.
Yes, sir. Man, that thing was it was bumping in the headset. Whoa. Hey, okay.
So
Gotta love the
at,
intro.
yeah, as always, yeah, which us and our secret partner worked very hard on putting together. Um,
Hmm.
but obviously, Swan, you just mentioned it. The NBA preseason. I know you've been watching it very closely. I've seen bits and pieces, but I wanted to hear some of your thoughts. What have you seen so far? What teams are standing out, and how are things coming together?
So we've had a few teams play their first games already. And there's a few teams tonight. Actually, I want to actually catch my Bulls. They play tonight on TNT, if I'm not mistaken. So
Hmm.
soon as we get done here, I want to actually try to catch my Bulls and see how they're looking. A couple of the things that stand out though is it's just good to see some of the guys get back who have missed time. Believe it or not, I found a little bit of joy seeing Ben Simmons actually on the floor for the Brooklyn Nets the other night.
And
He was on the floor. No, none of the starters, none of the guys played a ton of minutes, in minimal time, but he ran
it's
the
just good.
floor well. He had about 4 or 5 assists, and it was just good to see him get into the groove and to kind of see, okay, exactly how he'll mesh or he'll fit in with the rest of that Brooklyn Nets crew, in particular Kyrie and Kevin Durant.
And how was it looking? How was it looking so far? Even though it was a small sample size.
I think it looked pretty well. There was a few possessions where they kind of isolated him on the block, and he was able to make a couple plays on the block. He was on the right block, and he threw like a nice dime over to the opposite corner for a corner three, and I forgot who it was that shot the three, but he threw a nice dime over to the corner for a corner three. There was another one when he was running the floor. Kyrie was leading the break. Kyrie hit him, and he dunked it. There was another one where Ben Simmons was leading the break, and he dropped a no look over the head pass to I can't think of this to Claxton, and
Mhm.
Claxton dunked it or whatnot. So although in a small sample size, it looks like the chemistry is coming together there, and I think he's starting from what I could see. It looks like they're finding a way to fit him in, kind of in the manner that I thought that they would. Just kind of
letting him
having him
facilitate, run the offense, and then play defense on the other end.
exactly, whether it's from the top of the key or whether it's isolating him on the block on a smaller defender and allowing the double team to come and let him be that passer that he is, because people forget he is a really great passer. We talk about his shooting woes.
He's an elite passer.
He definitely is. He definitely is. Jamal Murray and Michael Porter played the other day,
Mhm.
and for Jamal Murray, I think it was about five. I think they said it was about 537 days since he last played a game.
That's
So
crazy.
it is, and it was good to see him out there. And to me, he looked like himself. He was real shifty. The handle was still there. The shot still looked good. He made this one little one hand like bank shot off the backboard to end the first quarter. So he looked really good, and I think that you're gonna see him really be well, obviously Jokic is their playmaker, but you're going to see him take on a lot of the ball handling responsibilities,
Mhm.
especially because they've lost Will Barton and they lost Monte Morris. So I think you're going to see he's coming back right on time, and he's going to really take on a lot of the playmaking responsibilities for him. And he looked good. So did Michael Porter Jr. You can tell Michael Porter Jr. is still kind of getting his feet under him or whatnot, but he looked good. They looked good in the minimal time that the starters did play. They looked good. Um, Go on to the Lakers, who it's going to be interesting to watch this year. Anthony Davis was back. He played. I actually watched this entire game last night. They played the Sacramento Kings last night. I actually watched that entire game, and Anthony Davis looked good. He had 11 points and 11 rebounds, and I think he only played maybe 15 or 16 minutes. And he came out. He was aggressive early. He was, really aggressive on the backboard. He was contesting shots and rebounding. Like I said, a double-double in, about 15, 16 minutes. So he really played well. I don't think LeBron made a field goal, so he's still getting back into the groove. Russell Westbrook, I think he only made one field goal, but he had a couple nice drives and kicks and kickouts or whatnot. They got Kendrick Nunn back, who seems like, and actually they started Kendrick Nunn yesterday, which was a little bit of a surprise to me, but he was in the starting lineup alongside Russell Westbrook in the backcourt. So um, they looked okay. The one thing I did notice about the Lakers, and once again, their starters play minimal minutes, but one thing I
Mhm.
did notice about them is that to me, they don't look like a very deep team.
Right.
They came out and they kind of jumped on the Sacramento Kings, but then into the second quarter and especially in the second half, when you really primarily play a lot of your second unit, and then you get deeper down into the lineups and actually see some of these guys who are going to make the team, but specifically their second unit gave up a lead like this, and in a game that I believe they were up at halftime, or it was tied. I think they were up a couple points at halftime, but they ended up losing the game by 30. So they're not
Wow.
going to be a very deep team. It doesn't look like to me they're a very deep team. But yeah, thus far, I think it's just been good to see some of the guys get back healthy. Kawhi Leonard played the other day,
Right.
and looked good. I think he had 11 points in short amount of time. Looked good to see him. Some of the pictures and from what people have been saying, like he's gotten a little yoked now. He
Right.
done
Right.
kind of bulked up now. So,
He definitely does.
and the Clippers are going to be a very, very interesting team
Oh, they're a contender.
if they can stay healthy, they'll be right at the top of the West if they can stay healthy. So, yeah, man, preseason is on and popping, man, and it was just really great to see some of the stars in this league who have missed so much time over the last year or two. It was just great to see them get back out on the floor.
And And really quick, you mentioned guys like Kawhi Leonard, and you mentioned Jamal Murray, who's still an upcoming star himself.
Mm-hmm.
Part of me feels like those guys could have had an outside chance to play the end of last year, but their teams were just like, it's really no point. You kind of want to stash those guys away, let them get fully healthy, or get all their explosiveness back, and kind of put the chips on the table for this year. I feel like you have a lot of teams that had injured players that really let them get that time, and they're banking on this year making that jump, or taking that shot at winning the championship.
Well, this is a different era in the NBA. Guys, if guys aren't gonna, and this is no knock on them, but
Yeah.
guys are really truly listening to their body.
Mm.
The days of guys playing 82 games, bar none, nicked up, sprained this, minor tear there, those days are over. Like, guys are gonna be really careful and listen to their bodies, because everybody's a brand now, and they have to think, about so much more than just, basketball and, whatever's going on the court. So that being said, I mean, I know specifically in Jamal Murray's case, I know they really wanted to be safe with him. Kawhi Leonard, I believe his injury happened kind of mid to a little later in the season.
Yeah,
And then
the prior season, yeah.
And Kawhi Leonard, the term load management was coined in San Antonio kind of off of Kawhi Leonard. So if we don't know nothing else, we know Kawhi ain't gonna step on the floor until he's confident enough to step on the floor. That's Kawhi. And we also know throughout the season he's gonna miss the occasional game. There's gonna be some back-to-backs. He probably won't play a back-to-back this season, actually. So I mean, that's just the nature of the beast, man. That's the way the league has gone now. And that's no shade. Guys have to take care of their bodies. Guys have to be ready for the stretch run, be ready for the playoffs. Guys are getting older, I don't when I look at LeBron and AD, I think if those guys, if you get 65 to 70 games out of those guys this year, I think you have to consider it a success. The same with Kawhi Leonard.
I think if you get 50 games out of Anthony Davis, it's a win.
Oh, man. I mean, I don't know, man. And I've said this before. I think that he needs to get a new I don't know, trainer, nutritionist. He got to try something new, man. He got to get some new people around him to really help him as far as his health goes, because it seems like, I mean, if the slightest little bump in the NBA game and he done turn some or twist some, or now he out for a month, you know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
And he's such a talented player.
He is.
The success of the Lakers, and you could argue almost more so than LeBron, the success of the Lakers really kind of hinges on Anthony Davis being healthy, because I think this season, kind of like last season, they really want to see him kind of take that step and be the number one guy there. They really want to see. Obviously, LeBron averaged 30 in year 20 or 19 last year.
But he did that out of necessity. That wasn't supposed to be his role.
Exactly. And another thing to look forward to real quick, LeBron is probably going to break the all-time scoring record this year.
Oh, he is. I have no doubt about it. So I look. I don't want to hear. It's going to be great for him. I don't want to hear the uproar from his fans. They're never going to let us forget that shit. But it is what it is.
It is, man. I've just learned, and no shade. I mean, obviously, he's one of the all-time greats. He's on any list. He should be no lower than 2 or 3 on any list.
Right.
But you can't tell a LeBron fan nothing. But he is this era's Michael Jordan.
He is.
And the longevity that he's had being this dominant, we honestly haven't seen. And so that's. I have to give credit where it's due. We honestly haven't seen a guy in year 19 and year 20 still be dominant, still be able to put up 30 a game, which is about what he averaged last year.
And hey, stand by. He may just have a hell of a year, because he finally went bald, and I think that's gonna pay. I don't know what it is when guys go bald. It come with a different energy, man. So Hey,
Man,
don't be surprised if
look,
LeBron get out.
I know I had to go and do it a couple months back. You know what I'm saying? So, hey, man,
Yeah,
it's it's a different energy, man. But yeah, man, obviously he's gonna come into this season ready. Um, we'll see, what Russell Westbrook will get this year. So things will be interesting, man. And obviously we'll, in the weeks to come, probably next week, we're gonna get a little more in depth into the NBA as the season gets ready to start. Like I said, 2 weeks from today. So, but yeah, that's my big thing so far this preseason is that it's just been wonderful to see a lot of the stars that had missed so much time actually get back on the floor, and for once to see guys be really healthy. And real quick, before we move on, I said don't be surprised if the Phoenix Suns take a step back. And granted, this is a preseason game, but they lost to I don't
ABA,
even the 36ers or something. I don't even
like an ABA
I've
team or
never heard of
something
them.
like that. Yeah,
I've never heard of them, but they went out
yeah.
there and they lost to this team by double digits. So it's all up and down that organization. It's a lot going on, and it's going to be something to keep an eye on.
First of all, I'm surprised they even agreed to play that team. I don't think any other NBA franchise would want to put themselves at risk of getting embarrassed
Man,
by
from
playing one of those teams.
time
Those guys are hungry.
from time to time, you'll see in the preseason, you might see a team play like an overseas team or travel. Because I think the Clippers first game they played some whacked out team before they played Portland last night. They played some whacked out team or something. But yeah, man. I mean, to lose to them just isn't a great look,
I
and
mean,
I think it's just indicative of some things to come. I think that team might fight to make the playoffs this year.
well, then let's also be fair. When you're playing these teams, these guys are hungry. They're playing. They're playing regular season playoff ball. They have something to prove.
Yeah.
You're just trying to go out there and get a light sweat in and get some shots in and just kind of get loose a little bit. So
That's true. You're
yeah,
playing guys who are trying to be seen and possibly,
yeah, they want a
be
shot.
called for a tryout, or they would
Mhm.
love to even be signed to a G League team or to a two-way deal or something, by
Right.
the NBL or whatever organization they might be playing for. So yeah, you're right. You're gonna get their their maximum effort, but I feel like when you're playing against a group of guys, a group of NBA guys, even
The
if your
talent that
starters
you
aren't
find
out
that
there, you would
yeah.
think that the talent level is still slightly higher. And for them to lose that game, I mean, like I said, I just think it's a sign of some things that are really going on in that organization. And once again, I think that they're gonna scratch and claw for a
To
playoff
make the
spot this year.
playoff spot?
I
I don't
think
know
so,
about that.
man, because
Even if we see them, and obviously we're about to move on, but even if they drop in the standings, but to fight to make a playoff spot, I mean, I don't think there are 8 better teams than them in the West. I don't even think that I could argue, I don't think that there are 6 better teams than them in the West.
I mean, I don't know, bro, because
I hope. Wait,
okay,
wait. Just so we're clear, I hope we're not. I hope we're not putting the Lakers above them.
no, I couldn't. Although I think the Lakers will be a lot better this year.
Okay.
Right now, I don't know if I necessarily put the Lakers above them until I see
Okay.
more, during the regular season. But I
Okay.
mean, there are some teams out there who
That are
are
coming.
improving. You know what I'm saying? The
Yeah,
Mavericks are coming. Hey, I'm gonna
they
give
are.
you a sleeper. The Minnesota Timberwolves are coming.
They are. They
I'll
are
give you
coming.
another sleeper that gave them issues in the first round. The New
Memphis.
Orleans
Oh,
Pelicans
New
are
Orleans Pelicans.
coming.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, they are.
Memphis will be back healthy. You know what I'm saying? So I think that when you combine some of the turmoil that's going on with that team, how is it that you got $100-some million player? Okay, you match this guy's contract, but Money Williams says that he and DeAndre Ayton haven't spoken since they had that spat in Game 7. Mind you, they weren't necessarily. There had already been rumors that they didn't necessarily see eye to eye throughout the
Last
past
season.
couple seasons anyway.
Yeah. Right.
So you have that, and now you got this $100 million guy, but he hasn't spoken to his coach, and we talked about the press conference he had. He looked
It was
downright
bad. Yeah, he
depressed
did.
that the Phoenix Suns matched that offer. He doesn't want to be there. Jay Crowder has already demanded a trade.
Hmm.
I man, and
Well,
there's just teams, and we know what's hovering over them with the stuff going on with the owner, with Robert Sarver.
right.
So just as an organization, and now they're talking about the team will be sold. So
Well,
just as an organization, it's just in
they're
shambles.
in a flux. Well,
Yeah,
one thing I say in sports, period, is adversity makes or breaks team.
it does.
So they could either take this and run with it and use this as an opportunity to grow and come together, which we would hopefully that's what we would like to see them do, or you know they'll completely implode
Alter. Mm-hmm.
and falter, and and they may be a shell of the team that they were the past 2 seasons. So I think it's just a wait and see. I feel like, and I love Monty. I feel like Monty
I
can
do
get this
too.
can figure things out and get this team together because
And
they're
then you got a
young.
leader like Chris Paul, and you would hope he can kind of step in and kind of, take control of the locker room and rally the guys as well. Because I mean, he's one of the ultimate leaders in this league.
He is, yeah. We just gotta wait things out and just kind of see how the pieces fall in place. It's only the preseason, but adversity. I think adversity, in my opinion, adversity makes championship teams.
Absolutely,
I
absolutely.
believe that in any sport. So hopefully, we'll see how things shake out. But I'm definitely interested. I'll be following them a lot more closely.
And we'll get into it a lot more next week. Like I said, as we getting closer to the start of the NBA season, we'll get a lot more into it, man. It's a lot to look forward to.
100%. So we had an interesting week 4.
Yes, we did. Yes, we
Uh,
did, man.
I mean,
You
man,
know,
it's
I
what you say?
I'll say this though. I feel like, and okay, the as it stands right now, the Philadelphia Eagles are the only
Unbeaten team.
undefeated team.
Mhm.
Um, and even with that being said, I feel like in both conferences, AFC and NFC, there's no one team that I could just say has stood out from the rest or have separated themselves from the rest for me.
Eh,
And that includes, and we'll talk about it in a second. Even including even when I look at the outing that the Chiefs just had against Tampa Bay, I still have my questions about them. Like I just feel like in both AFC, NFC, for me, no, there still isn't a team that's just separated themselves yet from the rest.
and that's good. That's good because one, obviously, we talk about parity a lot, but that just means the best football is yet to come. We don't know who
Mhm.
teams are going to be. A lot of teams are injured. Like we just talked about, we'll cover a little bit, but Kansas City beating Tampa Bay. They beat a pretty much hobbled Tampa Bay team that's kind of still kind of trying to gather their footing after losing a few players, and they'll be getting some guys back here soon. So that's been the tail of the league. And there's also some teams that we'll talk about who I think that even though they're struggling right now, I think they have the talent and the coaching to put that thing back together and have a mid-season turnaround. So
Oh yeah.
it's a lot of fun, a lot of good stuff going on right now. But let's go ahead and do our week 4 recap. Let's go game for game, and
Cool. Let's do it.
we'll do our little in depth takes on. I'm sure we doing one game a piece this week, guys. So we'll do our in-depth takes, but obviously we'll cover every one. So starting out, Dolphins and Bengals. I know I chose Cincinnati. I think I talked about this a few weeks ago. I always
Mhm.
felt like Cincinnati. I'm confident in who they are as a team and as a core, and I knew that they would kind of find their footing. And now you're obviously you're seeing that. So now they're 2-2. So what was your thoughts on this game? It was a fun Thursday night game. Oh well, sad because obviously 2 got hurt. But what were your thoughts on this game?
It was hard. It's hard when we think about this game. It's hard to even talk about anything else without just kind of talking about Tua and that whole situation. And for anyone who didn't see the game, he kind of got slammed to the ground and he started to, I guess, seize up. And it's if you're a little squirmish or anything, like it just wasn't a good sight to see. And this comes on the heels of him. This is 4 days after last Sunday when he played in the game and he got hit pretty hard. and he got back up and he kind of wobbled and then kind of fell down to a knee before getting back up, and his lineman kind of, stopping him and getting some help for him. If you looked at the game on Sunday, it would look as if he was obviously concussed, but they checked him out and then they let him go back into the game on Sunday. I guess apparently he passed protocol, and then they allowed him to play Thursday night, and then that happened Thursday night. So
Right.
obviously it's some negligence. They've already fired the neurosurgeon, and he doesn't work for the NFL. He's an independent neurosurgeon that works for the team, but they've already fired him. Oh yeah. That, obviously they needed a scapegoat.
Throw his ass to the wolves.
Yeah, obviously they need a scapegoat. Not to get too much into it, but man, I'm just praying for him, and I hope the NFL Players Association investigation really gets down to the bottom of what happened, because hopefully there has to be more people culpable than just that one neurosurgeon. And I hope everyone gets whatever consequences or whatever's coming to him, because this is not just a guy's career, but a guy's life that they kind of, put in jeopardy there. With that being said, though, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was about to say, let's not forget that organization is already under investigation, for other questionable acts, So
with the Brian Flores and all that,
they're slowly looking like the AFC version of the Washington Commanders, right?
Seriously,
they just acting up. So yeah, it's a lot of stuff going on with that organization. Obviously, they got some bright spots with the new hire head coach and some of the things that they're doing on the team, but yeah, just a lot of bad stuff going on there. So hey, stay tuned to see what comes out of that.
Oh yeah, but with that being said, I mean, I think we both picked Cincinnati. Obviously, we thought that they would kind of get things together. The line, this is probably one of the better games that their offensive line played. They only gave up 1 sack in this game, so they kind of they were able to keep Joe Burrow upright, and it was able to pay dividends for him. 287 with 2 touchdowns, no turnovers. T. Higgins caught 7 for 124. So they were able to really kind of get a few things going, being able to keep Joe Burrow upright. And they came out with a much needed win here. And let's just see if this win kind of propelled them into the right direction. And hopefully their line will continue to improve, because those first 3 weeks, they looked bad after all the changes they made to the O-line. They looked bad.
Well, one thing I said is they, week 1 and week 2, they played against some really good fronts. So it was kind of like we have nowhere to go but up. We get TJ Watt week 1, and then we get Micah Parsons week 2. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Lord help us. So, So definitely that team is rebuilding and putting it back together. And as for the Dolphins, I will say this. I was encouraged by what I seen from Teddy Bridgewater. We already know he's a serviceable quarterback. He's probably one of the better backups, if not the best backup in the game. So I believe he can keep them afloat while Tua's out. They say they've already announced that he's playing this week. I think you need to give him realistically 2 weeks off and really let him get himself together.
I've seen some reports that said probably closer to a month. I don't know. Hopefully the Miami Dolphins take heed to that. Hopefully they make for damn sure that he's ready to come back. But like you said, I mean, Teddy Bridgewater in that stretch of in a stretch of games, in the vacuum, 3-4 games, he can keep you afloat. Then that was their first loss on the season. They're already 3-1, so they got kind of a head start, a little bit of a cushion. Right. He can keep you afloat. He can win a couple games for you.
Exactly. So they're definitely sitting pretty. So yeah, good outside of the injury. It was a good back and forth Thursday night game. Both teams flexed their muscles, and Cincinnati was able to get their second win on the season. But we have this Vikings Saints game. I know this was played overseas.
Yeah, I know it's probably hard to see this, and it was an early morning game. I think it came on it was about 8:30 or so my time, so it was probably about 6 or so your time.
Mm-hmm.
So the Vikings did come out on top, 28-25. I believe it was I think the New Orleans Saints made a drive. They took a 61 yard field goal and it kind of double doinked off the goalpost, and that's how Minnesota held on.
And you know what? I think it's crazy to say, but I don't believe we've seen the best of what Minnesota can be yet. Like to me,
I agree.
they've
I agree.
underwhelmed so much, and a part of me feels like it's because they're trying to run so much offense through Justin Jefferson, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to really trusting this strong two-back combo you have with Dalvin Cook and Alexander Madison.
Mm-hmm.
And
And they have another capable wide receiver in Adam Thielen. Like Adam Thielen has been a 1,000-yard receiver in this league.
he's been a Pro Bowler in this league, and
Pro Bowler.
there was a time where people had him, people considered him a number one guy, but
Yeah.
so I think they can definitely, do a lot more, expand some of the things that they're doing on offense. But I just feel like they've underwhelmed a little bit on both sides of the ball. And it's crazy. We're talking about them underwhelming the Saints, who coming into the season, top to bottom. I mean, they've been underwhelming. Now, granted, Jameis Winston didn't play in this game, and they started Andy Dalton, and
Yeah. No Kamara, no Michael Thomas.
yeah. I mean, yeah, but yeah, true. They have that. They still had some weapons. I know Chris Olave had a pretty good game, and they still got why am I forgetting his name? Wide receiver they used to play for.
Callaway.
Well, yeah, they got
Olave.
Olave. That's good.
Oh, Jarvis Landry.
Jarvis Landry, yeah, I'm over here slipping with Jarvis Landry. But I mean, they have some talent, and we know that their defense is formidable, but they just can't put it together. Then they have Latavius Murray, but guess what? He just got poached. He won't be with their team anymore because he was a practice squad guy that they elevated game day under the new rules. So, I mean, man, where do they go from here? They're 1-3.
I think for one, and I think this was one of the things that I mentioned, one of my worries with them in the offseason when we were talking about them. I think they really miss Sean Payton. They really miss Sean Payton. And granted, some of these injuries do hurt. I mean, obviously, not having an Alvin Kamara does hurt. Michael Thomas, I think this is the first game he's missed. But they really miss Sean Payton, and this is no jab at Dennis Allen, but I mean, offensively, they just don't look the same. They don't, even and Jameis Winston didn't play this game, but even when he was playing, he seemed to have been reverting back to that turnover machine that we were seeing in Tampa Bay. So, I mean, I don't know. Am I confident? Am I confident that they can turn it around? I mean, I'm not gonna, what I'm saying, give up hope on them yet. I know they're 1-3 now. I'm not gonna give up hope on them yet, just because I think they have such a really good and talented defense. So I think, if they could somehow get Alvin Kamara back, maybe Michael Thomas comes back next week. Hopefully, Jameis Winston gets back pretty soon, and they can just kind of get some sort of camaraderie going offensively. You know what I'm saying, and just not turn the ball over while Jameis Winston is in the game. I think that they can kind of turn this season around because they definitely have the defense to do it. But right now, they're just not looking good. And then, like you said, with the Vikings, I mean, it's crazy to say they're 3-1, but you still kind of feel like they haven't.
It's so much meat on the bone.
It is. And then, we all know about the demons. And even though I like Kirk Cousins, but we all know about his primetime demons. The loss that they have was a primetime game. So,
yeah,
I mean, that's something that moving forward moving forward into the season, that's something he's gonna have to get through. But I think I think I actually picked them to win the NFC North. I think I actually picked them to win the NFC North. So,
and I believe they still can.
Yeah.
So, all right. So next we got Browns Falcons. This was a game I also predicted. I had the Falcons winning, and they were able to edge out the Browns that were without Myles Garrett. And for anyone that doesn't know, Myles Garrett got into a serious car accident, but I mean, obviously he didn't have any life-threatening injuries or anything that was gonna hurt him or put him out too long. But they definitely wanted to give him some time to heal up. He had a few muscle strains, some cuts, some bruises, but they clearly missed him. I know they were able to run the football. Atlanta was able to run the football a little bit with Cordero Patterson, and this new unknown backup that's coming on the scene, Allergy. I don't want to mispronounce the guy's name.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
I got you. Yeah.
but yeah, but
Algier.
that Algier allergy, however you say it. But yeah, man, it was definitely a fun game to watch. And this feisty, scrappy Falcons team gave the Browns all they can handle. And I think you were able to see a little bit more of how flawed Cleveland is
Mm-hmm.
right now as a football team. They have talent in certain positions, but Miles Garrett is to their defense what Aaron Donald is to Rams defense. You know,
Absolutely.
heart and soul, erases a lot of mistakes, and obviously not having him there hurt them substantially. And on the offensive side of the ball, they acquired Amari Cooper earlier this offseason from Dallas. AJ Terrell shut his
Yeah.
ass down.
He
He
had one
shut that
catch.
shit down. He had
He had
one catch
one
for nine. I
catch.
want to say for 9 yards.
Yep.
And this is something I've always said about Amari Cooper. He is a top 15 guy. He's a top 3 to 5 route runner, and he's a very consistent every year 1,000-yard guy. But when he goes up against these prime time corners, these upper echelon, like man to man cover guys, he always falls short. He plays small in those
Mm-hmm.
situations, and we saw it happen on Sunday with AJ Terrell.
The Atlanta Falcons, I think, and rather surprisingly, they're 2-2 on the season now. Moving forward, though, Cordero Patterson did get nicked up in this game, and they put him on IR.
Yeah.
So that might be something to keep an eye on. And this kid Algier, I don't want to. Lord forgive me if I'm
Look,
messing his
we
name up.
chopping this man's name up.
We are, but
Yeah.
this kid Algier, he'll probably gonna get a few more touches moving forward. He was getting about 8 yards a carry even in this game, so he's probably gonna get some touches moving forward. And we mention this all the time when we talk about this team. And I don't know, maybe you can speak to this. Why can't they seem to get Kyle Pitts the ball?
Oh my God. Okay, so I'm gonna tell you this. You're asking a question that man, I date, like, I'd be sitting down, I'd be at work, and I'm like, man, how come Atlanta can't get Kyle Pitts involved? Mind you, he's on my I was starting him on fantasy, still am currently.
I have him on one of my other teams.
Well, obviously we have to attribute a lot of that to Marcus Mariota. We know he's not the most, even at this stage of his career, he's not the most refined passer. And I feel like they just want to put him in a position to play to his comfort and give him and put him in position to make plays as a quarterback and use his legs a little bit. And obviously some of that is at the expense of production for Kyle Pitts. But for some reason, he's comfortable with a Drake London and, and what's the other guy? His name starts with the O. I never want to mispronounce his name.
Zacchaeus?
Zacchaeus. Yeah, so he's comfortable with some other guys, but often what you see is when you get different quarterbacks, they have their guys. A lot of people don't want to recognize that, but that's the truth. On every team, even all the way to the backup to the third string guys, different quarterbacks have their guys who they love throwing to, who just a better fit. They have more of a rapport with. And unfortunately, Marcus Mariota doesn't have a very great rapport with Kyle Pitts. And that's what
And you mentioned Marcus Mariota. I mean, he was 7 for 19 on his attempts, which is, I mean, far less than 50% even.
That's atrocious.
139, and he threw an interception. His QB rating was 26, and I don't even know how it was that high.
It's abysmal.
Yeah, I mean, but I mean, calling card, they were able to run the ball with a myriad of guys got an opportunity to run the ball, and they ended up with 202 rushing yards. And so, I mean, that's what'll do it. And at the end of the day, they came out with the win. They came out on top. And like you said, man, this team's gonna fight. If we don't know nothing else, when you come and play the Atlanta Falcons this year, they're gonna fight. And as an Atlanta fan, I know they're tough on their team, but you got to respect that.
And one thing I'm loving about Arthur Smith is he's really putting his imprint on this roster. Anybody that forgets Arthur Smith, he was the offensive coordinator for the Tennessee Titans before taking this job. And one thing we know about him, obviously, he had Derrick Henry in Tennessee. He knows how to put together a strong rushing offense. That's what he does. And you're seeing that. And now you're having Atlanta, who we can go ahead and be honest, has been seen as kind of a soft finesse team, be a little bit more rugged actually on both sides of the ball on defense. That is a joy for me because I have friends that are Atlanta fans and I argue with Atlanta fans all the time. They were about the softest team that I'd seen in the league for the better part of 10 years. Even when they were good, they just weren't a physical football team. Now they're
vastly different from that Matt Ryan era.
Vastly different. They're a blue collar team now. It's not perfect, it's not pretty, but they're finding ways to get it done, and they're 2-2 as a result of that. So, just look out for the Atlanta Falcons. I'm definitely gonna pick them on some of these upcoming games. I mean, I ain't gonna lie, I'm doing my pick'ems. I'm almost tempted to take them this week, but I might just chill out and pump my brakes. But we'll see what happens.
Don't you go getting ahead of yourself.
Hey, look, all right now, I'm telling you, I'll pick an upset now. Oh Lord.
Man. Moving on to your favorite team, Dallas Cowboys, with a 25-10 victory, divisional win against the Washington Commanders to move to 3-1. And once again, and for me, it's not that he's just blowing it away, but backup quarterback Cooper Rush, he's just not making mistakes. He's making the timely throws when he needs to. He's not just blowing guys away. He's not, you look at his stats, it's not gonna blow you away, but he's not turning the ball over. He's making the right reads and the right throw, and it really looks like he has command of an offense, on a team that he's been with for some years now.
Yeah.
And you combine, mistake-free offense, timely passing, solid run game with what is a phenomenal defense. Clearly a phenomenal defense.
Yeah.
And now you're looking at a 3-1 team even without that.
And I'll say this. One, first of all, shame on anybody who thought that Cooper Rush wasn't going to be able to come in and at least be serviceable, which I think he's been. He's even exceeded that. He's been at a minimum. He's been good. People are talking about signing Cam Newton and Colin Kaepernick and all this nonsense, right? At Dallas, we get very hyperbole. We say like the craziest things. But I'm loving how this team as a whole is responding. I think that this is making it, seeing how week one played out really made the entire coaching staff take a step back. You're seeing Kellen Moore be a lot more balanced in his play call. And I think he kind of got, I hate to say it, I think he got spoiled with Dak Prescott because he's a high volume passer. Okay, let's throw the ball 30, 40 times per game. But let's be honest, this team isn't built like that. This team you got two really good backs, you got a good defense, and you got an offensive line that at a minimum can run block. They're still some of the guys are still developing in pass pro in those areas. But what you saw against the Commanders was, first of all, you spoke to it. That was a pure, just defensive, dominant performance. Like, because I tell people, if we're going to give Cooper Rush, I'm glad Cooper Rush came out and said it. Washington, if you really look at the stats, Washington really probably should have won that game. Washington won time of possession. They outrushed Dallas. They had more overall yards than Dallas did. There were a few possessions where Washington was getting the ball on their 45-yard line. They had one possession. It was a messed up punt, but they got it on Dallas's 30-yard line and turned the ball over on downs.
Yeah, I remember that. He kind of kicked it off the side of his foot.
Yeah, exactly. So what you're seeing is you're seeing a defensive-led team that is focusing on ball control and time of possession. Granted, they didn't win it in this game. Now, as far as the running game goes, I love what Kellen Moore did. Obviously, they didn't not high totals. Ezekiel Elliott only had 49 yards. Hell, Tony Pollard, I think, only had 8 yards. He averaged 1.8 yards per carry. But what he did was at the beginning of the game, he ran the football, continued to run the football throughout. But what he told the defense was, even if we're not having that much success, you guys are going to respect the running game. And in turn, that opened up the play action for Cooper Rush. You look at some of the biggest passes he had; they were all off of play action. The deep middle pass to Noah Brown. He had a few
touchdown to CD Lamb.
Exactly, they were all off of play action because Kellen Moore established the threat of the run. So he's calling plays better. And I mean, man, I just, once again, I can't say enough about what Dan Quinn has done with this defense. 2 years ago, they were the laughingstock of the National Football League. And now, now we're arguing, are they the best defense this year? But they're definitely top 3, top 5. They're in that mix.
And Dan Quinn's gonna this offseason, he's gonna be probably the hot, if not the hottest name as far as head coaching
goes. And remember, he turned down interviews to come back. Because he said he wanted to see it through. He loved where he was at, and him and Micah Parsons have that really strong rapport. So, this Dallas team is very, very feisty. And I said this when Dak Prescott went down. These 3 games that they just won were very winnable games for them, just because of the way that these teams match up. If you look at all 3 of the teams, Cincinnati, Washington, New York, what is one thing that they all have in common? They all have protection issues. They all have offensive line issues. And I know if it's Dallas defense can't do anything else, they can get after the passer. We'll talk about it a little bit. I think this is a bad matchup for the Rams. The Rams have a horrible offensive line. So that is what they've really focused on. And the running game has obviously the running game has helped them out and helped them ease things up for Cooper Rush. But I'll say this, moving forward, we've spoke about Philly being the only unbeaten team in the NFL, and then obviously some people are considered them the top in the NFC. When they play Dallas, they're gonna have to embarrass them. If they don't, you cannot let a team go through this adversity that they're going through and get up. Because if this team makes it to December after going through everything that they went through, and they have a pretty good record, what do they really have to be scared of? So you can't let teams that go through adversity. I remember I said adversity makes or breaks teams. You can't let teams that go through this much adversity really get hope, because if so, that's going to be a dangerous team come playoff time. So definitely good win. As far as the Commanders go, I've been right about Carson Wentz. I mean, like I told you, I think he talented kid.
A fall from grace if I ever seen one, man.
Well,
it's actually sad.
I think you see what happens when a guy doesn't have he has the talent, but he doesn't have the mental makeup or the mental strength, or I don't say mental endurance or fortitude to handle criticism and things of that nature, and it's just deteriorated. And to me now, he needs to. There's a place for him in the NFL, but to me, it's on the sideline holding the clipboard.
I don't know if it's as a starting quarterback, though.
Like I said, on the sideline, holding the clipboard. That's where his place is in the league. And there's nothing wrong with that, because he had his time. He's had success. But honestly, to me, they probably would have got a better performance out of Taylor Heineke, because he plays within himself. Whereas Carson Wentz, he's going to take unnecessary risks.
And Taylor's a little more mobile in the pocket. He can kind of dance around a little bit and maybe, provide a little more time for his receivers. So, yeah, man, I don't know, man. Poor Carson Wentz, man.
Yeah.
All right, let's see here.
So what we got? Seattle. What? We got Seattle and Seattle, Detroit
Lions. Listen, I tell you what, though, and I think, first of all, I don't think anyone would have guessed either of these teams putting up this amount of points and it really being a shootout like this. I had seen a stat that said that the over-under for this game on points for both teams was like 43.5. you know. And
Mhm.
so for the Seahawks to put 48 and the Lions to put 45 is just crazy, man. But I think for me, man, one of the things that really stands out, man, Geno Smith is playing through 4 games. He's playing some really, really, really good football, man, and it's really a bit of a surprise to me, man. Even in this game, 23 for 30, 320 yards, 2 TDs, no interceptions, didn't turn the ball over. Your boy, and I know you like him, your boy Rashard Penny, he was 17 for 151, almost 9 yards a carry, and 2 touchdowns. I mean, we had a DK Metcalf sighting. I'm pretty tough on him, but 7 for 149 for Metcalf. Obviously, Tyler Lockett's going to chip in 6 for 91, and yeah, man. I mean, this team, I think for me coming into the season, I think them and maybe the Texans, I thought will probably battle for the #1 pick in next year's draft. But Pete Carroll is coaching these guys up. Geno Smith is studying the ship, and they are playing some ball, man. I think we both picked Detroit in this game, and
Yeah, we did.
and I mean they're playing tough, man. They're playing some ball.
And the crazy part is we saw Seattle win and they beat the Lions. And I think the Lions are a good team. I actually like them. I think that they're coming along.
I do too. And we always say they're heading in the right direction. I do. Look, Jay Hawkinson had a monster game for him.
Look.
I mean,
Jared Goff. Jared Goff had a throwback performance.
He did.
Yeah.
But I mean, at some point you got to get a stop though. I think this was one of the things.
Their defense failed them
when they were playing the Philadelphia Eagles. The offense was able to put points up, but you get these kind of lackluster efforts from the defense, and they're not able to get a stop. And so it was a game 48-45. I mean, and don't get me wrong, like I said, I mean, all credit due to Geno Smith and everything, but to give up 48 points to that offense is, I mean, as a defense, you got to kind of step back and take a look in the mirror.
True. Now, but I will say this. We spoke about Geno Smith, who obviously has been playing, some really damn good ball. Honestly, better than Russell, than the guy he's replaced. But one player who
I have to say so.
Yeah. Now, one player who damn well, we've had plenty of conversations, and this guy has been my pet cat for the better part of 4 years. I have told you, Rashard Penny is good. Rashard Penny is a good running back. And I think that now he is starting to get his confidence back, and we're starting to see the guy that was drafted out of San Diego State.
And he's staying healthy, and you can see, especially with the personnel that they have, they're going to be dependent on him.
Yeah. And if they focus on that running game, just waiting for that Niner talk, Gerald Scott. If they
stand by.
Yeah, stand by. They continue to hone in on that running game. There's no reason why they're not able to win 6 or 7 games, right? And so this it's definitely fun to watch. Yeah.
And who knows? I mean, if Geno, and like I said a couple weeks ago, Geno Smith is. I mean, because chances are they're probably going to go young and draft some sort of quarterback or something anyway. This is a quarterback heavy draft. But Geno Smith is playing for a job. He's auditioning right now. And he's putting on a hell of a show right now.
Most definitely. So okay. So then now we got the Titans and the Colts. And my Jesus Christ, if this isn't a tale of 2 teams. But here's the crazy part. You have 2 teams that have struggled thus far. To me, both have talent, and to me, both have good coaches. Obviously, I think Mike Vrabel is knocking on the door of being a great one of the top 3, top 5 coaches. And I think Frank Reich is really good. But we're seeing a Tennessee team who fell flat on their face early and are starting to find a way to manufacture wins despite losses, injuries, and things of that nature. And we're seeing a Colts team that for some good goddamn reason they start so slow. They start
They do.
so slow. And they have this Colts team has everything they need. They have a respectable a good defense. They have an adequate
Mm-hmm.
offensive line. They have a stable of running
Yep.
backs. They have receivers.
Yep.
They have a
Yep.
quarterback who I believe will be a Hall of Famer someday. And for
He
some
is.
God, yeah, I believe he will be. And they can't seem to figure it. I think they can, but for so far, we've seen them play so sloppy and start so slow. What did you think about this game?
Well, Tennessee got Derrick Henry going early and often. Obviously, he
Right.
ended up with 114 yards. So Tennessee got back to what kind of made them successful in a few years
Mm-hmm.
past. Just a real study heavy of Derrick Henry. Not a lot of Ryan Tannehill. He was 17 for 21, 17 completions, only had 137 yards. So typical
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Tannehill game, just kind of dinking and dunking, but mostly, they're riding Derrick Henry down the field. And then obviously we know as far as Tennessee goes, some of the struggles that they've had on defense. We've talked about Landry and how big of a loss that is for them. But I think
Mm-hmm.
luckily for them, they played a team who's having just as much struggles on the offensive end in the Indianapolis Colts. And I mean, that really Jonathan Taylor, and I think he got nicked up in this game, but even before the end, I mean, he really didn't have too much going. He had 42 yards on 20 carries, so he had
Right.
about 2 yards a rush. And if you look at Matt Ryan's numbers, you see, 356 yards, 2 TDs, an interception. But just looking at the game, it was a lot of bend but don't break. And
Right.
also another telltale sign in this game, the Indianapolis Colts, they ended up with 3 turnovers. Matt Ryan threw an interception, he also fumbled, and Jonathan Taylor lost a fumble. So, I
Right.
mean, in a game that close between two evenly matched teams, turnovers make a difference in the game.
Right. No, and I agree. I agree 100%. Looking at Matt Ryan and the numbers look pretty, but the product on the field wasn't that great. Um, and can
It
I speak a
wasn't.
little bit about to speak a little bit about these running backs? It's funny how Derrick Henry and Jonathan Taylor almost mirrored each other this year. Just not they've kind of been playing a little bit not as effective as we're used to seeing them be. Just come so
Oh
far
yeah,
this
oh
season.
yeah.
This is Derrick Henry's first 100-yard game of the year. You know,
Yeah, I think in the last couple weeks, you've kind of seen Derrick Henry get going a little bit. I think last week he had about 90. This week he went over 100 yards. So I think you're starting to see Derrick Henry get going a little bit. But on the flip side, as far as I just really can't put a handle on what the issue is right now. And it sucks because, as I had saying, all before the season started, they were my sleeper in the AFC. And I mean, right now, like you said, man, they just come out and they just start so slow.
they start
That's
very
what
slow.
got them. Well, they didn't lose it, but they tied in the game week 1 of the season. That's what had them in a tie with Houston Texans. Lackadaisical, and then they're playing catch up. Now, man, throwing back into a game. But like you said earlier, I give up hope. Yeah, I do think that they can turn it around because they like you said, they do have a really solid defense. They do have a really good offensive line. They do have a great run back. So I think they still got the formula to kind of turn some things around, but it's time to get back to the drawing board for them.
100%. So we'll definitely see what shakes up with those. I think both those teams will continue to be in the hunt, but let's look for it. Watch their next matchup. I'm sure the outcome will be very different. You'll see both teams be a lot more effective from an offensive standpoint, and then plus obviously they'll have some players back. So
I
so
think
we
the
that
next time they play each other, though, I think whoever wins that game probably wins the division.
True, I can see that, but I also
comment, but
I kind of, as I said, I kind of feel like we'll talk about them in just a minute, but I kind of feel like so far Jacksonville is the team that I will put my money on as far as just how they look and the young talent that they have. They seem a lot more well rounded, but they got to finish.
They have looked the best of any team in that division thus far.
So then now we got your Bears and the Giants. I picked the Giants only because of some of the the instability or the lack of explosiveness that you guys have in the passing game, and it kind of played out how I felt. Very low scoring game, ugly game. I mean, I think it was. I mean, obviously Saquon Barkley had a great game. They rode him 31 carries, and Daniel Jones had a pretty damn good running game himself. Mm-hmm. But what was your takeaway from this game? Just looking at your Bears, the Giants are very, very self-explanatory for what they've done. They played good defense and they ran the football with Saquon Barkley. What did you see from the Bears?
It was really simple. The Bears got dominated on both sides. Both lines got dominated. Their offensive line got dominated and their defensive line got dominated. Just that simple. They gave up Justin Fields 6 times, and that doesn't even count the amount of hurries or the amount of times that he was scrambling and running around in the pocket, and it forced him to throw some wacky pass or whatever. And then on the other end, as far as with the defensive line, I mean, they gave up 262 rushing yards to the Giants. Obviously, like you said, Saquon Barkley had himself a day with 146 yards on 31 carries. And then Daniel Jones, and when he got hurt, because Daniel Jones got dipped up, Daniel Jones, he ran for 2 touchdowns, first of all, on kind of broken plays. He was able to run that really hurt. And then Tyrod Taylor, and although he only had 3 carries for yards, all 3 of those carries were huge. I think 2 of them actually kept drives alive. And one of them was on a possession that they were able to get a field goal in the end of the game. But yeah, that was pretty much the tale of the tape in this game. I mean, it was an ugly game. The quarterback play on both sides was really, crappy at best. But that's really what it was. The Bears, the Giants won the line of scrimmage. Both offensive line and our defensive line won the line of scrimmage, and that was the tale of the tape. The only real positive that I can really get out of this for the Bears is that Justin Fields was finally able to find a connection with Darnell Mooney. Darnell Mooney had 4 receptions for 94 yards. He caught a deep ball of 56 yards. So it finally looked like in week 4 that he and Darnell Mooney were finally able to get on the same page a little bit. But, I mentioned this in the group chat, man. And obviously, the Bears haven't put Justin Fields in a situation to be successful. Obviously, they have one of, if not the worst O-line, in the league. Obviously, he's, devoid of weapons, as far as a receiving core. But I'm gonna just say it, man. I'm really starting to get scared for Justin Fields. There are some plays, there are just sometimes in some moments where, for quarterback, despite what you see, there's just moments where, a quarterback in the pocket, he's got to be able to make some throws. He's got to be able to get the ball out of his hands. I mean, our passing game looks atrocious, bro. I tell you this is a stat right here. Blew my mind. Justin Fields has more rushing attempts than he has completions on the season.
That speaks volumes. But I think when I look at that, obviously it is staggering and it is alarming. It's something that you have to worry about. But right now they're asking something of Justin Fields. I mean, we could argue they're asking something very similar of Justin Fields of what they're asking from Aaron Rodgers right now in Green Bay. Now, granted, he has 1 or 2 guys that he can depend on, and he has some older veteran guys. But you're asking a young Justin Fields who's still putting the pieces together of being an adequate or a good starting quarterback in the National Football League, you're asking this kid to carry an offense that's devoid of weapons. Um, every
Very
young
much
quarterback
so.
needs a strong running game. I think he needs at least an adequate offensive line, and you got to give him some strong weapons to develop with. And right now, I think that he has some. Obviously, Darnell Mooney is good. I still think Cole Kmet can be good, but you don't have. Not only do you
He,
lack
he's he's
creativity.
been he's been. I'm not sure if he's left training camp yet. Like Cole Kmet has just been, and obviously Notre Dame guy. I'm big on him, but I'm not sure if he's left training camp yet.
I mean, and that's fair. And once again, remember, Cole Kmet is still a young guy, his damn self. But I think it's a mixture of lack of talent, culmination of things, lack of talent, development needed from Justin Fields, and definitely lack of
Mhm.
creativity from an offensive standpoint. So I think the best is still yet to come. But you're looking at both those teams, obviously, that we just talked about, the Giants and the Bears. They're the same. They're very eerily similar. They're two teams
Mhm.
with first year head coaches. Granted, uh, you know the Bears have a defensive guy, and then the Giants have an offensive guy. But they're a team that have talent at certain positions, but they're really bare. The cupboard is pretty bare for both teams. They still have some building to do, but we know it's not. We know it's not going to happen this year. But we're seeing signs of life of what they can be in the years to come. So you're seeing both those teams kind of lay the brick and lay the foundation for what they could be moving forward. So it is what it is. I mean, I guess it was an ugly game, but it wasn't anything that I didn't expect.
Where
So then you got this Jacksonville Eagles game. I picked Jacksonville,
yeah,
and I
and
feel
they actually, I was gonna say they actually jumped out 14 zip on the Eagles
mhm.
early before the Eagles got it going, and they put up 29. And then the Jags made a late run. They came up short. It was a pretty solid game, pretty entertaining game, and the Jaguars gave it a heck of a fight. I know it, and just as an aside, it was really a nice touch. It was nice to see the reception Doug Peterson got coming back to Philadelphia.
Oh,
They
that
they
city
cheered
loves him.
him. The players loved him. They do, man, and that's a tough city to get that type of love and appreciation from. So that should just show you the type of man that Doug Peterson is and how much he meant to that city and that team.
Look, Doug is a class act. He's a blue collar guy. He's a tough coach. He's unapologetic in his approach. Him leaving Philly was more of a mutual decision than most people really want to admit. I know they were. He wasn't quite seeing eye to eye with that front office, Howie Roseman, and the rest of the front office with the direction the team was going, especially when it comes to the quarterback position. So yeah, they received him very well, and you're seeing him put his imprint on this young Jacksonville team. One thing I loved about this game, even though this is what you call a good loss, um,
Oh
because
yeah,
they
oh
swung,
yeah.
they swung, and they fought, and they went toe to toe with a team that right now is just a little bit more talented and a little bit further ahead in their development. Because Philly's a young team as well.
Mhm.
But for them, what doomed them in this game was we're still seeing that development needed from Trevor Lawrence. And I will say this: I'm seeing the steps and I'm seeing the progress. Doug Peterson's doing very well with Trevor Lawrence, and you see times where he flashes, that great quarterback ability and those nice throws. But I want to say this again. I will say this as many times as you guys need to, so you guys can really get an understanding for the quarterback position. Let this be a cautionary tale. Trevor Lawrence, I said this on Rooted in Sports community. Trevor Lawrence is the second most highly touted quarterback in the past 25 years behind Andrew Luck. And he has yet to look like the guy that played at Clemson. And that's not an indictment. He's young. He needs to develop. But I want you guys to understand that you have to stop touting and bigging up these young quarterbacks coming out of college because the NFL is a different beast. Let them
It is.
come and let them develop. The only quarterback we've ever seen come to the league as a rookie and really have success on a bad team was Andrew Luck. Everybody else has struggled. So we keep placing all these expectations, and this is what happened. So obviously he didn't play god awful. Now he's some blunders. He fumbled the ball 4 times, and I think they lost all 4 of those fumbles. But just kind of let that stick in your mind. The guys have to develop, and Trevor Lawrence, who was all world recognized and touted, has to do the same.
Mm-hmm.
But once again, a good loss by Jacksonville, and I think this was a good win for Philly because they showed that they can take a blow to the chin, they can get knocked down, and they can get back up.
Yeah, and that was one of the things we have been talking about with Philly because through the first couple of weeks they have been just kind of jumping on teams early and then just coasting through late. But this game was the exact opposite. Like I said, I think they came out. The Eagles had an early turnover. I think it was a pick 6 or
it was a pick 6
for a touchdown.
It was a tip drill. Andre Cisco caught it, ran it back for a touchdown.
Yeah, so they looked up. They were down 14. So they came out, got punched in the mouth, but they persevered and slowly but surely they got it going. Justin Hurts, it wasn't his best game. He threw for 204 with an interception. Wasn't his best game. They got 210 rushing yards. So when you can have success running the ball, 134 of that was from Miles Sanders. When you can have success running the ball and you recover 4 fumbles, you'd like to think that you can, come back and win that game. And I'm gonna say this, man. I think AJ Brown is going to lead the league in receiving yards this year. Just as an aside, I think he's going to lead the league in receiving yards.
It's possible, even though I feel like this team isn't going to be this good. I still feel like Cooper Rush gets so many empty yards, and it's just I feel like he made just very much beat it. I said Cooper Rush, Cooper Kupp. Yeah, you're right, Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
Yeah, even though they're not
a million balls last night.
I mean, it's just that he gets so much volume that may be how things shake out. But I agree with you. AJ Brown is definitely that dude. So yeah, so that was a really good game. Two teams that I think will obviously we know Philly, but Jacksonville I think will really be in the hunt. And Doug Peterson's just building a really good team, and he has the talent to win football games now. Yeah, he doesn't have to wait. This team can win a lot of football games now. They can be a playoff team.
And as we mentioned, that AFC South is right there for the taking for them.
It's wide open. There's nobody that's looked substantially better than they have. So we'll see how they play against some of their divisional mates. Right. I think this week they play Houston, and we know Houston's not going to lay down for them. So I'm excited to see how that one shakes out. But obviously got to get the rest of the schedule, the rest of the week 4. But we have the Jets and the Steelers next. This was a game I also picked the Jets to win this game.
Yeah.
Zach Wilson's first. Yeah. Zach Wilson's first game back.
Start this season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I don't know. I think. What are you about to say?
I was going to say. Also, we got our first look at Kenny Pickett in this game, and they, I think Mike Tomlin came out today and said that moving forward, they're going to go ahead and roll with Kenny Pickett. So, as you mentioned, the Jets won 24-20. Kenny Pickett, it was a rookie's game. He was 10 for 13. I guess he completed all 13, attempts. Unfortunately, 3 of them were to the other team, but 10 for 13, he showed flashes, you know what I'm saying? But obviously you want to cut down on the turnovers. But moving forward, they're going to go with him. So I think it'll be interesting to see what happens.
And to tell you the truth, that's the smart play. Kenny Pickett, remember I mentioned I covered it. They're talking about him in the NFL draft. He's an older prospect. Kenny Pickett, it was a 4 or 5 year guy at Pitt. So the truth is you can't use the excuses. This is some young kid with lack of game experience. But let's be honest. I don't think anybody believes that Pittsburgh is gonna be great this year, or they may not even be a playoff team. Hell, they were barely a playoff team, I want to say, a year ago. That being said,
I think Kenny Pickett's. I mean, not Kenny Pickett. I think Mike Tomlin's streak of winning seasons is about to come to an end.
It's exactly going to come to end, but I think he's identified where they're at as a franchise, and I think he said, "Hey, look, we're gonna go ahead and take a gamble. Worst case scenario, we have a losing season, but you have to see what you have in Kenny Pickett now." I mean, they picked him 25th. To me, they don't have anything to lose by starting Kenny Pickett. It's not like their season is on the line.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what they can be. So go ahead, take the gamble, rock with the young kid, let him figure out, because now you know, even though I love Mitch, Mitch is not your future. So it was, yeah, he isn't. So it was I would say it was an ugly game. You saw some encouraging thing from the Jets. My question is, was it a is it a Jets team that is making a lot of progress, or is it a Steelers team that's just bad right now? That's kind of where I was on this game watching it. But I mean, obviously, it was good to see Zach Wilson back out there for them. But two very flawed teams.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was just going to say I'm not sure if kind of to what you just said. I'm not sure if either one is improving. I just once again it was just a battle of two flawed teams, and one team, got their quarterback, future back, and they were just able to come out on top here pretty much.
Exactly. So yeah, so obviously, like I said, that game is what it is. We'll I guess we'll be back. We'll follow those teams next week and see where the chips fall. They both have some challenges moving forward. But Bills Ravens, this was a game that you told me you had kind of had your eye on this week. It was two MVP candidates, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and then obviously the Bills were able to edge them out 23-20. There were some I seen you and one of our good friends going toe to toe in the chat about some late game
Mr.
coaching
Raven.
blunders. Mr. Raven, some late game coaching blunders. But tell me give me your in-depth take on this game. What was why did the Bills win? Why did the Ravens lose? Give it to me.
So in the first half, Baltimore had jumped out and they were up actually 20-3. And then Buffalo scored. I think they scored a late touchdown right before halftime. So it was 20-10 going into halftime. Third quarter, Buffalo scores. They scored both their possessions. They scored 10 points in tie game. Get to the fourth quarter. All right, so I'm gonna get to the lecture at hand. So it's fourth quarter, about 4 minutes or so left in the game. Baltimore Ravens have the ball. It's 4th and goal on the Buffalo Bills 2-yard line. About 4 minutes left, and John Harbaugh, instead of taking the points, taking the 3 points, he elects to go for it. And unfortunately, Lamar Jackson throws a pass a little late, and it gets intercepted. And ultimately, they take the rest of the time off the clock. One of the Ravens players, I forgot which one it was, he didn't get the memo to let him score, and he ends up tackling this guy at the 1. They run all the clock down, get a field goal to win the game. I want to chime in because a lot has been said and a lot of scrutiny has came John Harbaugh's way on the decision that he made to go for it on that 4th and 2. So here's my thought. All right, if I am their coach, do I take the 3? Do I take the points? Yes, I probably do. But am I losing sleep at night, or am I more critical of John Harbaugh than I am of other units on the team for that loss? No, I'm not. I'm okay with him making that decision for a few reasons. A, you're looking at a defense who has just given up yet another double-digit lead. We saw them give up a double-digit lead a couple weeks ago to Miami Dolphins in the fourth quarter, and now this is a game that they were up 20-3, and they had given up a 23 lead to bring it to a tie score. I know a lot of people say, "Well, this is the Buffalo Bills, and you only held them to." You've held them to 20 points. Your defense is doing their job. I think you got to put that into perspective. although up to that they had held the Buffalo Bills to 20 points, they have scored on 3 of their last 4 possessions. As a matter of fact, the only possession that they stopped the Buffalo Bills from putting points over was the possession in the fourth previous to the Baltimore ball. That very drive that I'm talking about, 4th and 2. The Baltimore Ravens had the ball for about 9.5 minutes. This was a very long drive. So I understand the scrutiny of having such a long drive and not coming away with points. But I think when you consider where you're at on the field, when you consider that your defense once again is giving up another lead, and then I think you also got to look at this too. It's still 4 minutes left in that game. I think what really compounded it was that Lamar Jackson threw an interception by maybe throwing it away when it wasn't there, or maybe just being an incompletion or something. Because I look at it like this as well. You know, the worst case scenario, maybe the Ravens get stopped, but it's 4 minutes left in the game, and now Buffalo is backed up at their own 2-yard line, trying to go the length of the field. So now you're playing a field position game, but again with 4 minutes left, you look at like you probably still get an opportunity to get the ball back with time to go for a game-winning field goal. So that's just yet another reason why I didn't necessarily I'm not losing any sleep over him choosing to go for it on that 4th down. And then furthermore, what I will criticize is the actual play call. You got Lamar Jackson. I think, and obviously we know a lot of Baltimore Raven fans. To most Baltimore Raven fans, to lovers of that team, they'll probably tell you that they feel like Lamar Jackson, a former MVP, a guy who's looking to be the highest paid player ever, probably, they would feel that he's in the same category with a Patrick Mahomes, with a Josh Allen, with Aaron Rodgers right now. So I'll pose this question. If you got Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen or one of those guys that I just named, and it's 4 minutes left in the tie game, and it's 4th and 2 on the opposite team's 2-yard line, 4th and goal on the opposite team's 2-yard line, do you think those coaches are going to take the points with those guys? Like, you got Lamar freaking Jackson. Right. Now, I do have beef with the play call. I think that maybe you probably should have called a run, maybe some sort of RPO with Lamar Jackson, and maybe put more of the onus on him. But I once again, if I'm the coach, I probably take the 3, but I refuse to be more critical of the coach's decision to go for it on that 4th and 2 than I am of this defense who consistently gives up double-digit leads to even have him in this situation.
And I would agree, and I think it's kind of one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't, because Buffalo could have very well, the way that defense is playing, they could have very well came back and scored, and still won the game. 27 to 23, right? However we want to shake it out.
Exactly. And then they be saying, well, why didn't he go for it on 4th and 2? You got Lamar Jackson.
Exactly. So it's one of those. It's just one of those things where he had to make a critical coaching decision, and he's just living with the consequences, however it fell out. But this was
John Harbaugh. I'm sorry, not to cut you off, but I think because John Harbaugh in the past has made some questionable coaching decisions down the stretch of games. I think a lot of times, especially with a lot of Raven fans, they're already a little on the edge of him. They're already a little critical of him. So they're just quick to jump on him when, like I said, I mean, some of that, I'm not saying he's completely, void of taking some accountability. There's accountability to be spread. And I think some of that has to go to that Baltimore Raven defense. Because you can't consider yourself to be one of the best teams in the AFC, if your defense can't hold on to double-digit leads, and it's just like that, I don't care who you playing. You continue to lose double-digit leads, and that's twice in the past 3 weeks where we've seen them do that.
Exactly. So that team has a lot to shade. Now, granted, remember they have a lot of injuries on
They do
the defensive side of the ball, so they're still patching things together. Marlon Humphreys just came back. We know Marcus Peters has been banged up. So I mean, they're still piecing it together, but there has to be you're right. There has to be a lot more accountability in that organization amongst that fan base. Just to spread, right? It's not just a John Harbaugh thing. And to tell you the truth, they're not in a terrible place. I think we're just seeing a little bit of what their flaws are. We'll talk a little bit when we give our quick week five predictions. But I mean, hell, they got a tough one next week. And if that defense don't shape up, I mean, it's not like they're rushing the passer very great, but if they don't shape up, I mean,
exactly,
shit, it could be a tough week for them next week as well. So yeah, Bills, Ravens, 2 MVP candidates. Was an exciting game, came down to the wire. I mean, honestly, that's kind of how you expect those games to go. So it was fun to watch. So then we got, I mean, I guess a rather ugly one. Even though the score says 34-24, it was still kind of an ugly game. But Houston does what they do every week. They push, they back, they punch you in the mouth, right? And they just go toe-to-toe, blow for blow for you all game until your talent, it's going to take for your talent to show itself for you to really put them away. And what happened with this Chargers Texas game. Any quick thoughts on this one?
No, you pretty much hit it on the nail. The more talented team was able to come out on top here. Austin Eckler had a big game, 3 touchdowns, and I had to mention that because I got him on both of my fantasy teams, and shout out to Austin Eckler. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty short and sweet. I mean, more talented team won here. Obviously, like you said, the Houston Texans, they're always going to come out. They're always going to fight. They're always going to play hard, but they're a little bit, devoid of talent. And the Chargers, top to bottom, are one of the more talented teams we have in this league. And that talent shined through or Sunday, and they came out on top.
And quick shout out before we move on to the next game. This kid Dameon Pierce is looking damn good. He's looking really good for Houston.
14 so and a ton over 9 yards of carry.
So he was a nice find for them in the draft. So just shout out to that kid. He's doing good, and so they definitely have some building pieces. But like I said last episode, I'm probably gonna say it every episode this season. They're building and they're preparing a team, and they're finding and locating or identifying pieces that can help the next quarterback who they draft next year.
Yep.
So then next we got Cardinals.
Oh, my bad. I was just going to say we go into this Cardinals-Panthers game. Cardinals ended up coming out on top 26-16. I want to ask you this, you know what I'm saying? Because I know, initially, I know you are, or you think a lot more highly of Baker Mayfield than I did. Why do you think, real quickly, just why do you think Baker has struggled so far? Why do you think this team has struggled thus far this season?
I'll be honest. It's getting to the point to where, and it's tough to say because I really liked him when he got hired. But Matt Rule has not done a great job really, taking advantage of the talent that he has. This is a talented young team. This isn't a team that's devoid of talent. They have talent on the offensive line. They have talent at receiver. They have talent at running back. I like their backup running back, Chuba Hubbard. I think he's pretty solid as damn self. Defensively, you got these young athletic secondary. You got you got nice linebackers on the defensive line. You got Brian Burns and your Tur Gross Moss. Like you got some, and Derek Brown from Auburn, who was a top 10 pick for them.
Jeremy Chin on the back end.
Jeremy
kid they
Chin.
I can't think of the kid they took last year in the draft. The corner.
JC Horn.
Horn.
JC Horn. Exactly. So you have this team that has young and talented, but unfortunately, Matt Rule hasn't been able to take advantage of that. Now, obviously, we can have our questions for Baker Mayfield. There's a reason why Cleveland wanted to move on for him. He has his warts. But at the same time, I think this team doesn't really truly have an identity. They're just talent. They're just talent out there trying to play. They have no identity. They have no direction on either side of the ball. Because I've looked at this roster top to bottom the last 2 to 3 years, and I've been banking on them and saying, like, man, this is gonna be a playoff team. But he hasn't really been able to take advantage of them. He hasn't been able to put together an adequate coaching staff to get these guys where they need to get. And they've lost a lot of close games, right? So it's not like they're getting spanked and smacked up and down the field. They will play good teams and give them a fight, but they can't finish it off. And that's just the unfortunate side for this Panthers team. And Baker Mayfield just joined that. There's no structure and there's no direction of where this team is going. And you've seen that the other day. To me, the Cardinals aren't a good team. I don't think the Cardinals are a good team. I think they have some talent. Obviously they got Marquise Brown. Kyler Murray flashes at times, but I think for the most part, he's been bad. I mean, he was 23 for 32. He was throwing the football and he was playing like Shady said, he was playing high school ball, running around and doing that stuff. And defensively,
right now the Cardinals need him to create some sort of type of match to beat any games and
true, and understandably so. And true, I would agree with that, but I think for me, just looking and seeing what they've done and what they've put on tape so far, I can't say that DeAndre Hopkins is going to make them so much better than what they really look. I think he'll add another receiving option. Obviously, he's a top guy when he's healthy. He's a top 5 guy, maybe top 3 guy. But it's just this is just a flawed team. This game, honestly, it was who's the better of bad teams. Both have head coaches that are pretty damn close to getting fired. Obviously, Cliff Kingsbury has a longer leash because they had a winning season last year. But I think both coaches are kind of showing that they're inadequate, or they have their shortcomings in the National Football League. Look for Matt Rule. If the Panthers keep losing games like this, look for Matt Rule to be a mid-season fire.
Mid-season.
Yeah, I don't think Matt. If they keep losing, I don't see Matt Rule making it through the season with this team. It's time to move on, and it's too much young, offensive-minded head coaches out there. Oh, we lost one. Too many young, offensive-minded head coaches out there. Are offensive coordinators, offensive coaches that I just don't see them moving forward. So yeah, Cardinals, Panthers, guys. So we got the Patriots, Packers, right? This was two teams that are, well, obviously the Patriots just lost Mac Jones a week ago. He had a very severe high ankle sprain against the Baltimore Ravens, and he'll be out for the foreseeable future. So they had to they started Bailey Zapp, and I mean, man, you just saw I think they started about 2 or 3 different quarterbacks, but it was just sloppy play. And the scary part was this is a Packers team with a 4-time MVP and walk out of the Hall of Famer Aaron Rodgers, and they still couldn't put them away. Like it went down to the nitty gritty. So that should show you how flawed this Packers team is. Now, granted, they was able to get the running game going. We saw Alan Lazard kind of take a step towards becoming the number 1 guy for Aaron Rodgers. So there were some bright spots, but the Packers don't look like a very good team. They have talent, but they don't look like a good team. And the Patriots are just I believe in the system and what Bill wants to do. And obviously we got Swan back. I believe in the system and what Bill wants to do there, but they don't have the veteran leadership or the talent to put that in play. So, and you're just seeing a result of that. So this could be a very bad. I mean, Patriots fans, I really don't feel sorry for you guys because you guys were riding high and you were on top of the world for the better part of 20 fucking years. So I don't feel bad for you. This just look for this to be a bad one. Mac Jones, once again, I thought before the injury, Mac Jones was looking spry, and they showed some life on offense. But man, this is just going to be a tough year for these teams. And the Packers, after they won this game, Aaron Rodgers came out and said, "I don't think the way that we're winning games is sustainable." So even he knows, like, we're bad
absolutely right,
and he's right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what you saw at a huh?
No, I was just
saying what?
I was just saying, and I've said this, don't know how to go on without having, as far as these coordinators go. Once again, we still don't know who's. I think Matt Patricia's form, but we still don't know who the offensive coordinator is or who's really, making these play calls for them, man. And I think that has to be, be getting multiple different play callers and okay, well, we gonna ride with his scheme next week, and it has to be confusing. So, I mean, and like you said about Green Bay, I mean, but I think on the nail can win games in the on that. So, yeah,
100%. So yeah, so that was obviously the outcome of the game. Stay tuned. We'll see with the Packers. They're probably one of the worst 3-1 teams right now. I won't say the worst because the Giants are 3-1, but they're kind of in that ballpark. So then we got Broncos Raiders. A game that I predicted I had the Raiders getting their first win. I've long said this in 4 weeks. The Raiders and their 3 losses have looked better than the Broncos in their 2 wins. And that's just the truth. The Broncos look bad. They're injured. They're banged up. They have a guy that just unfortunately may not be a head coach. I don't want to tear guys down because I'm sure that it's something that's getting to him, and I'm sure he's hearing a lot. He's catching criticism from all ends, probably from within the locker room as well. But they don't have great coaching, and I'll continue to say this as well. Russell Wilson is supposed to be a walk-in first ballot Hall of Famer. This is where let me say this. I'll be a little vulgar. This is where you let your nuts hang. This is where you show people who you are.
And I think that if you look at his number, it's not so much that he's just playing terrible, but he's not lifting the play of the team. He's not. They seem to be the exact same team that they were last year, and I think that's the thing. When you bring a guy like that, a guy like you said is a Hall of Famer, you think he's the missing piece. You would expect him to lift the play of this team, but that just hasn't happened. And it's not that he's playing terrible; he just hasn't lifted them.
Can I be honest with this?
Go ahead.
They'd have been better off keeping Vic Fangio. I think despite their record last year,
I thought you was gonna go somewhere as far as the quarterback.
No.
I love Vic Fangio.
Yeah, I believe despite the their record last year, which wasn't terrible, they were actually in the playoff hunt in December. They were in there. I truly believe Vic had that locker room. Like, those guys loved him and believed in him. But what you're seeing right now out of Nathaniel Hackett, you're seeing a guy who doesn't even look like he belongs, like he needs to be a head coach. Like, you're like, and it's funny. I can say this. Nathaniel Hackett is what we thought Nick Sirianni would be.
Yep.
He looks completely unprepared.
Even when we first heard him, even Dan Campbell, that first conference from Dan Campbell, we was like, who the hell? We was like, who the fuck is this dude?
Exactly. But these guys are at least showing that they can be adequate. And obviously Dan Campbell has to do a little bit more in the win record, but obviously, and Nick Sirianni looks phenomenal. It's looking like a really damn good head coach. You can tell he has the confidence now. But Nathaniel Hackett
Those
looks
guys
riled
have
up.
the confidence of their teams. They definitely have the support in the ear of their teams for sure. There's no doubt about that, despite whatever their various records may be.
Exactly. So that's what you saw, because the truth is the Broncos are top to bottom one of the more talented, even with the injuries, they're top to bottom one of the more talented teams in the league. But no direction, and then you're not getting leadership and direction from the head coach. You're not getting the leadership and the lifting ability that you're supposed to get from a Russell Wilson. So that's questionable as well. But on the Raiders side, they're one of the teams I think can turn it around. This right here, this 20 carries for 144 yards, 2 touchdowns, that's the Josh Jacobs that they need. That's the Josh Jacobs that will help them win games. This Devontae Adams, 9 receptions for 101 yards. Like, if they can continue to get this type of production, Derek Carr's going to have his games where he throws for 300-400 yards. They can win a lot of football games. They just have to continue to build this thing brick by brick. But the Raiders are one team that I really have hope for. You know, I've spoke about them all offseason. They're not a bad team. They have talent. They have a good quarterback. They just need to push things together. They need to finish games. And obviously, they were able to do that against the Broncos. So look to see how they just look out for them and follow them closely as they move through the rest of the season. So we got Chiefs, Buccaneers. I mean, man, like I told you earlier, I think the Chiefs just were able to catch a hobbling, limping Tampa Bay Buccaneers team, and they were just able to take advantage. And they did what, you know, I think a lot of teams should have done early on. I think Dallas should have did it. They showed, like, you can run the football on this Tampa Bay defense, and that's what Kansas City did in surprising fashion, because we don't know them to be a running team.
They did. This kid Isaiah that they got, I think he was like second or third to last pick in the draft, but it seemed like they've got themselves a really solid player there at running back. And then we started to see that was Hilaire really as to be the running back for them that we thought he would be when he first got out of LSU.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. Because remember, we had questions and people were saying maybe this guy's a draft bust. He couldn't stay healthy. Obviously, I always thought that it was more of they weren't really committing to him and giving him the opportunity and the volume to prove that he's that guy. But now I think because of the loss of talent at receiver, Andy Reid has kind of had to change some things around schematically and had to rely on the running game a little bit more. And I think it's paying dividends. With this formula that they have right now, this is going to be a different Kansas City team than we've seen the last 3 to 4 years.
It is, man. And I'll say this, though, you know, for any people who had doubts about Patrick Mahomes coming into this season, I think that he's quieted those doubters, and he's proven himself to be once again, you know, one of arguably the best quarterback in the league. There's no doubt about it. And on the flip side, the Buccaneers, they'll be just fine. Once they get healthy, their defense is they still have one of the better defenses in the league. Have absolutely no worries about this Tampa Bay Buccaneer team. They're still a 12 or 13 win team to me.
Yeah, 100%. They'll right the ship, and they'll get some things together offensively. Obviously, they have some injuries at running back too. They're just banged up right now, but they'll figure it out. I think that, you know, the coaching staff they have, some of the veteran guys they have, and plus I think this game was good for them because it showed some life for them on offense, because they've been struggling offensively, especially in the passing game, and you really start to see Mike Evans and Tom Brady start to get it going. So just look for them to light some things up in the upcoming weeks. But, you know, like I said, they got a fun one next week, so we're gonna get a chance to watch that. But last but not least, we had the Monday night game. Rams 49ers. I picked the 49ers in this game. Keep it very, very simple. This is a terrible matchup for the Rams. They have protection
They,
issues.
I think they've beaten the Rams the last 4 times they've met. Now they've just had the Rams number. They
They
smacked them
have
around.
they have, but I think that in times past it was a lot more evenly matched from a matchup and talent standpoint. But if you're looking at going into this game, I never felt that the Rams had an opportunity to win this game, especially seeing how they've played leading up to this moment. Once again, offensive line is terrible. They have the guys are injured, and even the guys that are healthy aren't playing very well. They don't have a running game, and right now they're really operating off this quick passing game, and then they're struggling on defense at the same time. I think you saw me pose a question to the group: has Jalen Ramsey regressed? Which is a fair argument. He just hasn't looked like himself.
That's a fair question.
Yeah, it's a fair question. So they just have a lot of question marks right now, and they played a 49ers team that has the ability to rush the passer. And the truth is the 49ers did exactly what they were expected to do last night. They sacked him 7 times. Right. So it's Sean McVay is going to have to reach into his bag of greatness to figure out how this team will move forward. Especially from an offensive standpoint. Maybe he'll condense the scheme similar to how he did in 2020 with Jared Goff, just to get some quick passes off, supplement the running game, and protect Matthew Stafford. But right now, it's not looking too good especially if they want to compete come December and January. If you can't protect the quarterback, guys going to pin their ears back and just come at you. And you can't run the football. So that is just a double one. Yeah.
And one thing we know about Kyle Shanahan and Kyle Shanahan with the team, they're going to be physical. They're going to hell out the football. And I think we've said this before, Samuels. I don't necessarily. I guess he, by position, he's a wide receiver, but I think he is just a hell of a football player. Period.
He is.
Whether it, him catching passes, whether it's ways for him to run the ball. They just want to get the ball in his hands in as many creative ways as possible and let him do what he does. He's a really quick, physical runner, and he's just a hell of a football player, and he's a hell of a tool to have on your team.
No, I agree. I do. Deebo Samuel continues to show that he's a very unique player in this league, and Kyle Shanahan puts him in the perfect positions to be successful. And I guess I can say this because I got Deebo Samuel in fantasy. He's won me some games.
Right.
Trey Lance getting injured was probably, I hate to say it like this and phrase it like this, was probably one of the best things that could have happened for Deebo Samuel this year and most of those receivers, because Jimmy Garoppolo, as critical as people want to be of him, he just gets it. He just understands how to get those guys the ball. It's a very simple formula, and they're at their best with Jimmy, who is, one game he's a game manager, and he'll pop out 2 or 3 games where he's giving you 300 yards passing and multiple touchdowns. So he's going to have some games like that as well. But he's very steady, and you know what you're going to get out of him, and he understands how to operate with this team, and just he understands the pace of what this team needs from the quarterback position, and that was just proof of that. So 49ers action. The Rams are a team that you should be worried about because they just have so many question marks, and the NFC is a lot more even. It's a lot more evened out than in comparing years past. They can get beat. There are myriad of teams that have solid pass rushes that can have a field day against that Rams offense. And so obviously we'll jump into the we'll do a quick let's go ahead and do it rapid fire, because we got 10 minutes left, but rapid fire our week 5 our week 5 predictions. We got some fun ones,
and I'm gonna write them. I got a little pen and paper now because I want to start writing these predictions down so we can kind of keep up week to week how we doing. So I'm gonna make sure I write these predictions down. But I got them pulled up here, so we'll just go ahead and jump right into a Thursday night game. We got the Indianapolis Colts at the Denver Broncos. Denver's favored by 3. Neither one of these teams have been overwhelming this year, but who you got?
I got Indy. Better defense. Shaq Leonard. It'll be his second game back. In Denver, it's just I think this is going to come down to coaching. Frank Reich's the better coach. I got Indy winning.
It's crazy to call a game a must-win this early in the season, but I think this is a must-win game for both teams. And I really can't give you no schematical reason. I just think that this is the game. We just talked about Russell Wilson impacting the team. I think this is the game Russell Wilson makes that impact on the team. And I'm going to go with the Broncos. We got the Giants at the Green Bay Packers. The Packers are 8-point favorites. Sheesh. But yeah, who you got?
You got to go Green Bay just because of you got Aaron Rodgers, so he's going to give, even though their passing game hasn't looked phenomenal, he is a Hall of Fame guy. He's back-to-back MVP the last 2 years. He's going to make just enough plays for them to win this football game. And the Green Bay's defense is not a slouch. So, I mean, they're not going to lay down. And so it'll be competitive. Expect the Giants to fight. But they're, if they play this when they played against the Bears, Green Bay is going to win. Even if it's by 3 or 6 points, I got Green Bay winning.
Yeah, I see actually another really ugly game. I don't see this game being too high scoring at all. But I'm gonna go with the Packers. I'm gonna give it the Packers by a field goal, maybe 4 points. 2016 Packers. I'm going with the Packers as well. Next up, we got the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Buffalo Bills. The Bills are 2 touchdown favorites, 14-point favorites. Who you got here?
Oh, easily Buffalo, right?
Yeah,
it'll be Buffalo. Could be 3-4 touchdowns. It could get really ugly because it's just not a great matchup for Pittsburgh. But I think for them, hopefully, what you hope is you're at least competitive and you see progress at a Kenny Pickett. That'll be a win for them.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I think that they throw some real exotic looks at Kenny Pickett in his first start. I guess this wouldn't be the ideal matchup to throw him out against, but hey, you got to get him out there at some point. But I'm with you. I think Buffalo wins by. I probably take Buffalo and the 14 points in this game. So Buffalo big in this game. We got the 2-2 Chargers at the 2-2 Cleveland Browns. Chargers are 3-point favorites. Who you got?
I'm gonna take the Chargers on this one. They're the more talented team. They have the better quarterback. They have the better offensive weapons. And currently, right now, I think you can fair to say that they probably have more weapons and more impact players on defense. So, look for the Chargers to come out and make some plays in the passing game. Hopefully, Austin Eckler can get going. But for me, you look at what Cleveland is from a offensive standpoint. Nick Chubb is going to get 100 yards, but man, that passing game, you're putting so much on Amari Cooper, and to me, Amari Cooper is a mid-tier. Yeah, he's a mid-tier number one guy. So that's just the tough part about it. You said what?
The Chargers are and my wife, she said that they will always be San Diego Chargers, and I still tend to make that mistake sometimes as well.
Oh, all the time, all the time. So yeah, trust me, everybody's in the same boat.
All right, we got my Chicago Bears at the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota is favored by a touchdown in this game. Who do you got? Oh, FYI, I'm sorry, I don't think I gave a pick. I'm going with the Chargers as well. The Chargers are. This is another case where more talented team will win, and I think this is one of those momentum wins for the Chargers, and they just take this and keep going on in the right direction. So I got the Chargers as well. Sorry, Chicago at Minnesota.
Minnesota. Hey, I tell you this: if they fucking if they plan run defense like that, next week they got to play against Dalvin Cook and Alexander Madison. It's not looking too pretty. So if I'm if I'm Minnesota, I'm really putting emphasis on the running game. It's going to open some things up. I don't think there's a soul in Chicago that you really want to match up with Justin Jefferson, even though I like the second or third year kid Johnson out of Utah. But it's just
Yeah.
it's just a tough draw. It's a tough matchup, and you guys just don't have enough talent. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna take Minnesota. Don't be surprised if it's by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I hate to pick against, my Chicago Bears, my home team, but I try to be a realist, and considering the outing they just put up, I don't see things getting much better on the road in Minnesota. Team who I picked to win the division anyway. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Minnesota as well. I think they win by a touchdown. The Detroit Lions at the New England Patriots. Both of these are 1-3 teams. Surprisingly to me, though, they got the Patriots favored by 3 points in this game. But who you got?
God damn it, I'm gonna take the Lions because I just feel like the Lions have been losing games that they should win. They have enough talent on both sides of the football. Anybody that's watched Jeff Okudah has been playing very good ball at the cornerback position. And on offense, Jared Goff he's played solid. And Jamal Williams he's running the hell out of that ball. Trust me, I got him on fantasy. So
right.
I feel like this is a game.
And he's going to get opportunities with Swift being on the IR as well.
He's going to get opportunities. I just feel like this is a game where Detroit really reestablishes themselves as a force in the NFC North, and this is a must-win game for them. I think from a confidence standpoint and a momentum standpoint. So I got Detroit winning. It probably won't be pretty. I'm say somewhere up 24-14, but they just they have talent, receiving, running. They got TJ Hawkinson. I just really think that they can get it done.
I'm gonna go with Detroit as well, man. This is a game that they just have to win. We keep talking about them and in the right direction, but they need to learn how to win, learn how to close the game. Well, this is a game that I think will be right there for them for the taking. I think it'll be close. Obviously, New England, Bill Belichick, I had those guys to play hard. It'll be close, but I think Detroit comes out on top as well. Seattle Seahawks at the New Orleans Saints. This now becomes a very interesting game. I have point favorites in this game. What do you got?
I'm taking Seattle. I'm gonna take Seattle. I'm gonna take Seattle. Even though I know what they said, DK Metcalf got dinged up. I think this is a team that is feisty. They're on something with this running game with Rashad Penny, and their defense, while not great at all, or arguably not even good, is gonna play hard. They're gonna play tough. They're gonna run to the football. And right now, they're just catching New Orleans at a really good time, struggling from an offensive standpoint. And then defensively, I know that they've had a few struggles there as well, even though they're usually great. I think that this is going to be a game where you see Seattle control the football, be it more time in possession. But I could really see them imposing their will on the ground with Rashad Penny in the offensive line.
Crazy enough, man. Right now, I'm not sure if Jameis Winston this year. We're still not sure about Al Kamara. Maybe Michael Thomas gets back, but yeah, I think Seattle's rolling, man. Pete Carroll has them going. Geno Smith is playing mistake-free football, and I think they go in there and get another win and get up 500, go 3-2. So y'all, we both gonna take Seattle there. Miami.
We got another cutoff. So he said Miami. We got these week 5. So I want to say Miami week 5 NFL. All right. We got Miami with let me go ahead and slide this thing all the way down. Oh, there it goes. He's back. Chargers, Browns. Oh, we got Miami at New York.
Yeah, can you hear me, bro?
Miami at New. I can hear you.
Man, bro, you're moving to a new crib, and the Wi-Fi just want to betray you. You know what I'm saying?
No,
Golly, man.
it's all good. We had to close it in
It's all
at the
right.
tail end anyways, but we
We're gonna
don't
go ahead
panic.
and
We
finish
just.
this
Mm-hmm. But you said
pivot, right? Okay. All right.
Miami and Jets.
Dolphins at Jets. Yeah.
Uh, you know what? I think the Dolphins will stay afloat in this one. Teddy Bridgewater has enough to get them through this home stretch. The Jets, I was tempted to pick them, but they're too young right now, and they're still trying to get some things together offensively. Zach Wilson showed some signs of life, but it wasn't like he just went out there and lit the thing up and was serving. So I'm gonna go ahead and take Miami. I think it's gonna be a good back and forth divisional game, but I just think the Dolphins are more talented. And I mean, hell, we've been talking all this noise about Sauce Gardner. Now he's gonna have to guard Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle. So good luck to him.
Yeah,
That's a
that's a
different type.
task in itself.
That's a different type of speed. So yeah, I got the Dolphins.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I got the Miami Dolphins as well. Like, as we talked about Teddy Bridgewater, in a vacuum in 3-4 games, he can keep them afloat. And I think this is a favorable matchup for him. So yeah, I'm with the Dolphins as well. Atlanta Falcons at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Both of these two teams now. Tampa Bay 8.5-point favorites at home. Who you got?
I really want to pick Atlanta, but not without Cordero Patterson. So I'm gonna go ahead and take the safe pick and take Tampa Bay. They're just more established, and defensively, they have a lot more teeth. They had a bad game against Kansas City the other day. They got ran all on. So I think that they'll shore some things up in the running game, take some extra, make some adjustments to see that it doesn't get out of hand like it did last week. But Tampa Bay is just more experienced, more veteran guys. Tom Brady's going to steer the ship defensively. You're going to see Devin White and Levante David really go out there and once again slow down the running game and probably blitz Mariota a little bit. So expect it to get a little chippy, but Tampa Bay is the better team. They'll win.
I agree. I think the Cordero Patterson loss is huge. I think that Tampa Bay defense will really be hungry coming off that effort against the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think they win this one fairly easily. I said they'll win by the score. So, yeah, I want Tampa Bay as well. We got the Tennessee Titans at the Washington Commanders. Tennessee is 2.5-point favorites.
Funny part is Washington is more talented, but Tennessee has a better foundation and has far superior, far better coaching. So I think Tennessee is going to pull this out. Don't be surprised you see Derrick Henry get going. I don't think he's going to have the biggest game, but he'll get the dirty yards and he'll get the tough runs needed to kind of edge this one out. Ryan Tannehill may very well get loose. You see Robert Woods is coming along. He's been getting better every single game. You can tell he's getting healthier. And they still got the young kid in Traylon Burks who has yet to really truly have his breakout game. So I'm going to rock with Tennessee just because of what they have from a coaching standpoint. They're not the more talented ball club, but I mean, the truth is we're watching Washington right now and they don't look good at all.
Yeah, I tell you what though, call me crazy. I got to pick at least one upset every week. Washington defense is up for it, specifically that front four. I think that they probably stack the box, make a concerted effort to stop Derrick Henry, and I think they found a little bit of success there. I think they get a turnover or two from Tannehill, and I think they pull this off in an ugly and close one. But I'm gonna take the Washington. My upset pick for the week.
Okay, fair enough.
The Houston Texans at the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jags are 7-point favorites at home. Who you got?
Oh Lord. So this is what you call this is like a real trap game because Houston is feisty
Mhm.
enough and Jacksonville is young and experienced enough to lose this game.
And these
I'm just
divisional
gonna
games, you just don't know.
you just don't know. I'm gonna go with Jacksonville just because of where they're at from a defensive standpoint. I think they're gonna raise a lot of hell on Davis Mills. I mean, you just see what they did with Jalen Hurts, and Jalen Hurts is having a
Mhm.
great year so far. He struggled for large portions of the game, throwing the football, getting the football to his best weapons. And I think that if they did that to him, it could possibly even be worse for Jalen Mills. So I think that I'll take the 7 points about accurate. Houston will fight them, but I think Jacksonville is able to edge them out with the running game and with some of the things that they can do defensively.
I'm gonna go with Jacksonville as well. As you mentioned, I think defensively, they'll have a really solid game. Slightly more talented team. I think Doug Peterson just kind of holds them to a nice, solid division, although tough, a nice solid division win. So I'm going Jacksonville as well. Um, the 2-2 San Francisco 49ers at the 1-3 Carolina Panthers. The Niners are 6.5 point favorites in this game. Who you got?
Oh, I got the 49ers, and I think this one could possibly get ugly. I believe that the 49ers are starting to find their groove, and they're
Mm-hmm.
getting back to who they were last year. They're picking up right where they left off. They're starting to get in their defensive groove. Offensively, they're starting to run the football very, very well. They're, Debo Samuel is getting hot at the right time, and once again, Jimmy Garoppolo is just being himself. He's just spreading the ball around, managing the game, not doing too much, playing within his own skill set, and I think that will be enough. I don't think this will be. I think this will be more than 7 points. It won't be a super high scoring game, but look for it to be kind of similar to what we just seen out of the Rams last week, 24-9.
Mm-hmm.
I could see it being 27-10. I don't. I just don't. I don't see the Panthers doing a substantial amount based off of kind of how the 49ers are playing on defense right now. So yeah, I'm gonna go with the 49ers.
I'm right there in the same mode with you. I think the Niners just bully this team on both lines of the scrimmage, offensive line and the defensive line. I think they just come out and bully this team. I think they force Baker Mayfield a few times, maybe force him into a couple turnovers. And I'm with you. I'm somewhere along the lines of 26-10, something like that. But San Francisco definitely wins this game. To a very interesting matchup involving your team. You got the Dallas Cowboys going to LA to play the LA Rams. The Rams are 4.5 point favorites in this game. Who you got?
I got Dallas, and take away the fact that this is my favorite team. This is a terrible matchup for the Rams. Uh,
Mhm.
they have arguably the worst offensive line in the league, and right now Dallas has the top pass rush in the league. They're leading the league in pressures, I think, by a wide margin. And they're one, maybe two, they're first or maybe second in the league in sacks. So it's going to be a tough matchup. And I think that on the offensive side of the ball, I could see Dallas getting some things going in the running game as well. If they're able to get a running game going with and pair it with this defense, and Cooper Rush makes just enough throws, I don't consider this an upset. I don't think that I think the Rams have regressed in some areas, especially from a protection standpoint, and it's kind of going to come back to haunt them. But I mean, say what you want about the Cowboys. This Dallas defense is for real, and they're going to have their hands full. So I got Dallas. Won't be high. Look, I could see it being 17-10, 17-14, but Dallas just has the better defense, and they could possibly get some things going in the running game. So yeah.
I actually agree with you, man. Like you said, I think the Rams have a terrible offensive line, and that makes it a not so favorable matchup against what you'd have to say right now is the best front four in the league, and against a team who's going to get pressure. And I think that pressure is going to make a difference. And so, yeah, I'm with you. I see a close game, but I'm actually going to have to go with the Dallas Cowboys as well. I think that defense leads them to another victory. So I'm taking Dallas as
Mhm.
well. We got the Philadelphia Eagles at the Arizona Cardinals. Philly is a 5-point favorite in this game. Who do you got?
I'm gonna keep this one quick. Philly. Uh, I think it's going to be more than 6 points. Look at it being probably possibly two touchdowns. This could be a blowout. This could be similar to what they did to Minnesota. Um, they'll run the football. There's no area where you can say Cardinals match up very well from them. Match up very well with them, and I just think that Kyler Murray, some of the things he likes to do, running around, Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham. They may blitz N'Kobe Dean, TJ Edwards. They're going to corral him. They'll probably get a lot of sacks. It's just that the Cardinals talented enough or disciplined or well coached enough to win this game.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I think Philadelphia's just the better team. I do think this will be a high scoring affair, though. I think you might see a lot of touchdowns all over the field in this one, but I think the Eagles come out on top in this one as well. The Cardinals they're just not talented enough to really hang with this team. So yeah, I'm gonna go with the Eagles as well, probably by multiple scores, but I think there's gonna be a lot of points scored in this game. Two more games to go. Got the primetime games. Sunday night, good. The Cincinnati Bengals at the Baltimore Ravens. Both 2-2 teams, both at the top of the AFC North. Interesting game. We got Baltimore favored by 3. Who you got?
Oh, I got Cincinnati in this one. It could be. We talked about Ravens struggles defensively. This is a Cincinnati team that still hasn't played their best ball on offense. I mean, teams have been blanketing and virtually taking away Jamar Chase or slowing him down. But on the other end, I'm gonna tell you this. I said this coming off of last week. T. Higgins eventually he's gonna force teams. He's gonna literally force teams to stop leaving him one-on-one. He's that good. Yeah. T. Higgins is a number 1 receiver in this league. And it doesn't matter who he's playing against, whether he's playing against a Pro Bowl first team all pro corner, or he's playing against the guy that, the backup or whatever. He's giving everybody work. So they can keep double and triple in Jamar Chase if they want to, but T. Higgins is going to have a field day. And it's just not going to look good. And you still got, Boyd. And I think what the difference from what Baltimore is seeing this week with Buffalo, Cincinnati doesn't have that problem. They can run the ball with Joe Mixon and Samaje Perine. Mm-hmm. So defensively, they're not perfect, but they're feisty. They can rush the passer with Trey Hendrickson. And I could see Cincinnati winning this game, something like 30-20.
I think that this will be a really, really, really great matchup. It does give me a little cause to pause with the weapons that the Bengals have in their receiving core against this Ravens defense, in particular that secondary and some of the struggles that they've been having this season. And I spoke to it a little earlier. With that being said, for one reason and one reason only, I'm going to pick the Baltimore Ravens, and that's because I'm going to say that at home, I think Lamar Jackson just comes out and has an MVP type performance. I think he throws a couple touchdowns. I think he has a couple passing touchdowns, but I think he makes a couple plays with his legs that only he can. And I think they kind of right the ship. I think it's a close one. I kind of expect a little bit of a high scoring affair, but I think Baltimore comes out on top here. So I'm going to take Baltimore by a field goal.
Okay.
Last but not least, Monday night game. We got the Oakland Raiders at the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs are 7-point favorites. Who you got here?
So I would like to pick Vegas, but I just feel like Kansas City's a little bit more further along if Kansas City runs the football like they did last week against a really good Tampa Bay defense. Don't be surprised to see a similar result. I think the Raiders will fight, but ultimately Kansas City as a little bit more disciplined, a little bit more established, and you can argue that Kansas City has the better defense than what the Raiders have currently been playing. And the Raiders have been having issues getting pressure on the quarterback. Chandler Jones has struggled, and we probably just saw Crosby's first great game of this year. So if they can't get a consistent pass rush going, it could be a long day. So I'm just going to pick Kansas City. I'll take them by 7 points. 27-14.
Okay. I'm gonna take Kansas City as well. I feel sorry for the Raiders that they finally get a win and get going, and then they got to run into this Kansas City team. It's a divisional matchup, so I do think it will be tough. I think the Raiders will fight. I think they'll hang around, but ultimately Patrick Mahomes make a pass or makes a play that just makes the difference in the game. So I'm gonna take the Chiefs by a touchdown. I'll say Chiefs 27-20.
So
27-20.
Real quick, yeah. So real quick, just a quick recap. We both got the games that we agree. We agree Green Bay over the Giants, Buffalo over Pittsburgh, Chargers over Cleveland, Minnesota over the Bears, Detroit over New England, Seattle over New Orleans, Miami over the Jets, Tampa Bay over Atlanta, Jacksonville over Houston, San Francisco over Carolina, Dallas over the LA Rams, Philly over Arizona, and Kansas City over Oakland.
Mm-hmm.
Indianapolis Colts beating the Denver Broncos. I've got the Denver Broncos beating the Indianapolis Colts. And then my upset special, I have the Washington Commanders defeating the Tennessee Titans. You have the Tennessee Titans winning that one. And then Sunday night, you have the Cincinnati Bengals, and I have the Baltimore Ravens. So a lot of we different on 2 or 3, but a lot of the same. But we'll see how we both fare next week.
Good, and we'll go ahead and shake that out and show the public who predicted better. So yeah, week four was a wild ride. Week 5 is sure to shut us up and put us to shame as well. But once again, it's been fun as always. A fun episode, a lot of great content.
Word.
Always able to break everything down to the nitty gritty. But next time we meet, we'll be able to definitely talk some more basketball, some more NBA updates, and obviously, naturally, some more NFL updates. But yeah, sports is blowing up right now, man.
Where, as always, we'll be right back here next Tuesday, 7:30 Central Time, 5:30 Pacific Time.
Pacific Standard.
As always, we have the Rooted in Sports community over Twitter Spaces every Saturday, 12 Pacific Standard Time, 2 Central Standard Time. And yeah, follow us on Instagram, obviously, at Rooted in Sports. You can follow me, iSwan_0623. And then can you give me your Instagram handle?
Tiberius519.
And there it is, man. Give us a follow, like, and subscribe to us on YouTube. Once again, it's simply Rooted in Sports. You type that in, and all our episodes will be up. Episodes from last week up. Go give it a listen. Obviously, tune in and check this one out if you want to rewatch it or whatever. But like and subscribe to the YouTube page. Once again, that's simply Rooted in Sports. You'll see our cartoon characters come up. And yeah, man, that's it, man. I'm gonna go on and get up out this jam and I guess upgrade my Wi-Fi, man. I don't know what was going on today. Well, I know what the issue was, but that's all right. We won't have that issue next week.
No, we won't. No, we like I said, we just learned from it. But yeah, like I said, it's a fun episode. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. And we will be back with you guys. If we don't talk to some of you guys on Saturday, Rooted Sports community, we'll see you guys next Tuesday.
Word. Till we meet again. Much love and God bless.
God bless.